Suswagatam sarvebhyaha suhrudbhyaha. Let us begin. Shriman Venkatanatharyaha Kavitarkika Kesari Vedantacharya Varyo me Sannidhattam Sadahradi Santashriranga Prithvisha Charanatrana Shekharaha Jayanti Bhavanatrana Padapankajarenavaha. Let me recite the first verse of the third chapter, Prabhava Paddhati of Sri Padukasahasram by Sri Vedantadeshika. Vande Tadranganasasya Manyam Padukayor Yugam Unnatanam Avanatirnatanam Yatra Chonnatihi. So we are going to the next verse today. Sorry. 41 we saw yesterday, and also 42. We will go to 40. And also we saw 43, sorry. So we'll have now 44. Abhigamya Mukunda Paduke Tvam Apanita Atapavaranahi Shirobhi Haritam Patayo Durapamanyahi Anagachayam Avapnumanti Bhogam. So as usual, so we are now making a virtual tour. So we are in Srirangam. We are entering into the temple. We have come to the Sanctum Sanctorum. So we are standing there. At the same time, the gods also, as usual, come there. Now, they have no specific time to come to the temple of Sri Ranganatha. And they prefer coming to the Sanctum Sanctorum in our morning. So we do not know what would be their time. But generally speaking, Vibhishana, the good demon from Sri Lanka, comes on our night and then worships the Lord and adores the divine sandals. And generally all demons come at our night. And you know the Bhagavad Gita verse, Yanisha Sarva Bhutanam Tasyam Jagarti Samyami. So you have yogins, their night is our day and their day is our night. And therefore, so just like the foreign countries, we have different timings. So now this verse 44 indicates that the early morning time in which the temple is opened, the priests enter saying the mantra Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Every second, every minute, every hour, they will be uttering this mantra. They will murmur in the heart. They will just say it in the heart, and they will be repeating this mantra. That is special to this temple, Ranganatha. The first word is an indication by Dhvani that the priests of the temple arrive early in the morning, and it's called Abhigamana Aradhanam. So when it is done, especially during the December-January timing, namely what we call Margashirsha month, otherwise called Dhanurmasa in Sanskrit also. Of course, in all months, in all the 12 months, the priests are supposed to come to duty to worship start the Aradhanam, and it's called Abhigamana Aradhana. And they perform their normal daily duties and then arrive at the temple. Now he is Swami Vedantadeshika, he is also there, so along with us. So you are along with me. So Mukunda Paduke, he is addressing the sandals now. So hey Mukunda Paduke, the all divine sandals of Lord Mukunda, namely Ranganatha, because, O Lord, you are happy to receive us. Your face blossoms like the jasmine, fresh jasmine, as soon as you see us here, devotees, and especially the gods also. So gods need, as I said earlier, as you know, lot of protection. They are always put into trouble so that they will be remembering the Lord. And therefore, so what do? As usual, when they come to the temple, they remove their crowns, they remove their headdress, they remove the meaning that they become humble, they are not conscious of their high status. So whether it is Indra or any other god, the leader of 33 crores of God is so modest that they remove their head ornament like crowns as kings. So what is the purpose of our headdress generally? In order to save our head while we travel, and that's what called helmet-like object which adorns our head. And generally, we also hold an umbrella in order to avoid the heat of the sun. Since we are now discussing Sri Padukasahasram during the summer months, there are only 3 seasons in most of our parts, most parts of our country, namely the hot season, the hotter season, the hottest season. Only in a few cities like Bengaluru, sometimes some people call even Bengaluru hot or hotter than the earlier days. And then Hyderabad and our capital, country capital, and so on. All these are all having different climates in different seasons. And generally, we are a hot country. So we also give you a warm welcome to understand the meaning of the Padukasahasram. So what do? They remove their umbrella. So the umbrella is a paraphernalia limb for a king. Therefore, atapa varanaihi, atapa heat. The heat also refers to the heat of our physical frame or our mental setup. Namely, so we will be sad over something. Our body heat is because of various reasons, and therefore, because of mental suffering also, the body gets heated. So these are atapa refers to the heat also. And we have 3 loans to repay: Pitrurinam, Rishirinam, and one more. Again, so Devarinam. So Devarinam, Pitrurinam, and Rishirinam. We are born with the loans. We need not ask for loan from any other source like bank. So we have already 3 loans to repay. And therefore, that is also what you call suffering, atapaha, heat. Again, you have 3 types of trouble: adhyatmikam, adi bhautikam, adi daivik. These are all some natural sufferings that we face, and therefore that is also called atapa. Now, what we understand from Vedantadeshika's words are, there are subtle references to many episodes, especially from Ramayana and the Puranas also, about the gods. So what do? So, Tvam apnuvanti. They come to you. Who are they coming to you? Haritam patayaha. Look at the second half, the first two words. Haritam patayaha. Patayaha, leaders. So leaders of what? Haritam, of the directions. So which we saw earlier. Dikpatinam Sangha. A group of the leaders of directions, guardians of quarters. They come. So they have a lot of responsibilities. So in order to carry out their responsibilities and duties, they seek the blessings of the divine sandals. So apanita atapavarnaihi shirobhihi. Their heads are without any object like umbrella, crown, etc. So apanita, removed. So why do they remove the umbrella or anything over their head? Because they want to get blessed by the placing of shatari, the divine sandals, by the priests of the temple in the sanctum sanctorum. And therefore, apanita atapavarana shirobhihi. So when they come, they first get the preference. First come, first serve. So the priests of the temple welcome them and put the shatari, the divine sandals, on their heads, the gods' heads. Who are those gods? Particularly these 8 leaders. You know the list. So Haritam Patayaha. So what happens is, even the human beings are late, delayed, even though they stand out waiting for the shatari to be placed. These gods take the first preference. Durapam anyaihi. And it is difficult for others to get it first, get the shatari on their head first. So durapam anyaihi. And another aspect of any temple of, or rather Lord Vishnu, would be the shatari will be placed by the priest on his own head first, and then he will start any ritual like puja, Thiruvaradhanam, etc. The priests of the temple are the lucky ones, and therefore Vedantadeshika started Padukasahasram as Santaha, good people. So they are because they are getting the first placement of shatari on their head, they are called Santaha. Santashriranga Prithvija Charanatrana Shekharaha. And therefore, what do? Jayanti, they become victorious. Bhuvanatrana Padapankajarenavaha. As the shatari, the divine sandals, contain the dust from the divine feet of Ranganatha, they are blessed. So even the dust removes their dirty thoughts. So Durapam Anyehi, the gods Haritam Patayaha of the directions. So Durapam Anyehi, when it is difficult for others to get, Anagachayam Ava Pruvanti Bhogam. As you know, in Tamil you have a proverb, Veyilin Armai Nedalil Dan Theriyum. So when you get under the shadow of a tree, when you are walking on the hot sun, then you will feel that so happy, so glad that you feel the coolness of the shadow of the tree, or whatever be the shadow. You will stay for a few minutes and then continue to walk. So bhogam apnuvanti. So what is the pleasure here? Reaching the sanctum sanctorum of Srirangam and getting the satari on the head is called the highest pleasure for the guardians of directions. So they all come to get Tvam Bhogam Apravanti. The very personification of the pleasure is the divine sandals. So Tvam Bhogam Apravanti. the pleasure that they did not get in heaven. Swarga is supposed to, the heaven is supposed to give all kinds of pleasures for the sense organs and also spiritual pleasure. But more than the pleasure that they get from heaven, they feel very happier having come to Srirangam and worship the Lord and his feet, bow at his feet, and then get the bhogam, pleasure. So enjoyment. So what is the type of enjoyment? Anagachayam. If at all they have committed some sins, many gods err. We were discussing. So especially even the leader of gods makes some occasionally some mistakes. So agachayam, chaya shadow. So agachayam is a shadow from the sins. Agaha means sin. Anagachayam, they get a sinless shadow. That means the gods, the guardians of directions, get relieved of their sins and get the coolness under the umbrella of Shatari. Now, Shatari acts as an umbrella to their heads. So, Atapa Varanam Bhogam Tvam. Connect these two words with the Tvam. So, the umbrella like heat remover on the head, Shiraha, is the divine sandals. The heat remover is what? So, what you call, you can say, air conditioner, air cooler, so on the head. So, anagachayam, when they get their sins removed, when they stop their bad deeds, naturally they become happy. And because merits accrue to them, after stopping of the bad activities, of course, intermittently, they get the pleasure out of performing good activities. Now they are performing the good activity of coming to Srirangam and worship the Lord, fall down at its divine feet, and then get the placement of Shatari over their heads. So Abhigam, now the beauty is here. So without umbrella, they become cool. Because they have already removed their umbrella. Apanita atapavaranahi. So that is called Virodha Bhasa Alankara in Sanskrit. This is embellishment. The beauty is, the figure of speech is called Virodha Bhasa. So after getting the umbrella removed, they get the shadow. How come? That is the beauty here. So that is because of the blessings of the divine science. Now what is the, so Virodha Bhasaha is an apparent contradiction we understand from a sentence, but there is no real contradiction. Virodha Bhasata Mata. Virodha Chet Virodha Bhasata Mata. That's the definition. So what is the Virodha? What is the contradiction? The contradiction is between the Upameya and the Upamana. The Upamana is the standard of comparison. Upameya is the object which is to be understood. Object which needs comparison for us to understand the greatness of that particular object. That object is called Upameya. So our understanding, so easy understanding of the Upamanam, the standard of comparison, will help us to clearly recognize the object called Upameya. So now what do you see here? Contradiction. Another example I will give you from Chandraloka of Jayadeva, namely, Api Andhakarina Anena Jagadetat Prakashyate. This is a standard example in a definition book called Chandraloka in the 5th chapter. And Jayadeva, the author, has named all the 10 chapters with a common name called Mayukha. Mayukha means R-A-Y, Ray. So Mayukha is what now is the name for all the chapters. So he said Prathamaha Mayukaha, Prathamo Mayukaha, Dvitiyo Mayukaha, and so on. So in Panchamo Mayukaha, in the 5th chapter on Alankaras, in the figures of speech, you find that Virodhabhasa, both Shabdalankaras, the beauty of based on sound, and Arthalankaras, the beauty based on meaning. So you have this Virodhabhasa. Now what is the meaning of Api Andhakarina Anena Jagadetat Prakashyate? A devotee of Lord Shiva, he says this. He worshipped Lord Shiva, found that Lord Shiva, his titular deity, that is Kula Daivatam. Kula Daivam also I can say in Tamil as usual in Sanskrit. Kula Daivam, the family deity, is able to spread over the entire universe a lot of light. Lord is light, God is light, as you know. So Ranganatha is Antarjyoti. The Lord Ranganatha is the light within. Lord Shiva is the light outside. So he loves Lord Shiva so much, the devotee, he says this sentence. So Andhakarina, Andhakaraha, all of you must have heard that Andhakaraha. Andhakaraha is blinding darkness. Pitch darkness is called Andhakaraha. That is, we have all of us have got eyes, all of us have got normal vision. Fortunately, by the blessings of God, we are born with the limbs working properly. For that also, we must be grateful to the Lord, Lord of creation, and all other gods also. For every sense organ, we have some gods, as mentioned in Shastras. So when the limbs of our body work very well, so we must all be grateful. So fortunately, we are not born with the challenges, and therefore, so the devotee of Shiva is able to see the light over the universe. So Andhakaraha, so though we have vision, though we have good eyes, we are not able to see even ourselves. We have to touch our physical frame to know where we are. So it happened once even during daytime in my visit to Kurukshetram in Haryana, when I went to the place of Mahabharata war, there was a fog, and there was a fog during day. The sun looked like moon during the day. I enjoyed the vision of sun as a moon in the day, during the day. And it was winter. I think it was February, but still I was able to see the fogged sun and it looked like a moon. And one day the fog was so much that I couldn't see myself. It was one degree centigrade, and therefore I was not able to see myself. So what I would say, I have vision, I have good eyes, but I am not able to see. So andham karoti iti andhakaraha. The darkness makes us blind. So andham karoti iti andhakaraha. So andhakaraha means darkness. Now andhakaraha asya asti iti andhakari. So an object which makes us blind is called andhakari. So by the object andhakarina anena, by this object of making us blind, how can it be jagadetat prakashyate? How can it make the whole universe bright? Etat jagat, this world, prakashyate, is lit, is brilliant. It has luster, great luster. Why? Andhakarina. So api, even by andhakarina, even by the object which makes us blind, this world is lit. Now, how can you understand? This is a contradiction. So darkness gives light. Suppose I say darkness gives light. Darkness makes the world bright. Then how can we understand? Now we understand by slesha, by different meaning, second meaning of the word andhakarina. By this time you might have understood the word andhakarina in the second meaning. So andhakasya harihi andhakarihi. Tena andhakarina. So the Vigraha Vakyam, what we call the explanation in Sanskrit, to understand the second meaning will be, so Andhakaha is the name of a demon, and his enemy, foe, was Lord Shiva. So Andhakasya Arihi, Andhakarihi, Andhakarina by Lord Shiva, Anena Andhakarina. The devotee of Shiva is in the sanctum sanctorum of the temple of Shiva. And therefore he says, by this Lord Shiva. So by this Lord Shiva, Anena Andhakarina, Api, there is no need for Api there. Or you can say, even, so Lord Shiva also adds to the light of the world. He makes the world brilliant. So this is by what we call slesha, the double meaning. The pun on the word, we have the virodha bhasa alankara. And then in the same way, but of course, here there is no double meaning of any word here. So without double meaning, Vedantadeshika brings out the beauty, namely virodha bhasa alankara. Okay, so this is what we call apparent contradiction by the beauty. So now let me recite again 44. Abhigamya mukunda paduke tvam apanita atapavaranaih shirobhi. Let me read with Sandhya also. Tvam apanita atapavaranaih shirobhi haritam patayo durapamanneranagachaya mavapnuvanti bhogam. So I'll go to 45. So apahaya sita nupaya naravindekshana paduke mahantaha tadanyataya bhajanti vrittim tadasadharana bhoga sabhilashaha. Now this is another way of presentation by Sri Vedantadeshika. Now we are talking about great people. So who are the great people? Those who do their duties properly, regularly, and those who behave properly, those who have very auspicious qualities in an unlimited number, those who help others. So they are all called, you can take all good qualities of a person and certify him as great person. So Mahantaha. So Mahantaha, great people. They are also Manishinaha. They are also well-wishers of the world. They are also Hitaishinaha. They expect everything good for the world. They are not selfish. So they are called Mahanta. Now again, Vedantadeshika addresses these divine sandals. Aravindekshana paduke. Now, the beauty of this particular epithet, Visheshanam, on the Lord is what we call in Tamil, Shandamarai Kannan. Lord's eyes, Lord Ranganatha's eyes are as beautiful as the red lotus. I also adduced two reasons earlier for the red color of the eyes. The reason for generally red color of the eye, our eyes is anger or from some disease on the eyes. But in the case of Lord Ranganatha, he has two reasons, two important reasons to have a red colored eye or a red colored pair of eyes. Aravindam is red lotus. Aravindam is red lotus. Ikshana is vision. So he has a vision of red lotus. So they are very beautiful. They are cool. So they are red in color. Why are they red in color? Because of the anger towards the enemies of the devotees. So they are red in color. And because of Sri Ranganatha's affection towards the devotees, out of vatsalyam, out of filial affection, the blood-related affection, and his vision are red in color. His vision is red in color. So Aravinda Ikshana Paduke, O divine sandals of Sri Ranganatha, who has got red colored vision. So he has no colored vision, as we say in English. So he doesn't look through colored glasses. He is always affectionate towards the devotees. So what do? Mahantaha? They do apahaya. They give up. What do they give up? Sita sitan upayan. So they have so many strategies, methodologies to approach Lord Ranganatha's divine sandals. So they don't want to indulge themselves in some even so-called good activities and bad activities. So Sita and Asita. Sita generally meaning white, pure you can say. So Asita, black, therefore you can say impure. So Upayan, there are so many upayas which bad people suggest to us. And they may be sometimes good and sometimes not. Even for example, Bhakti Upaya, you know the Bhakti Yoga, as envisaged by the Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita is the second book translated into all world languages from the next to Bible. So you have apahaya, giving up even the strategies, methodologies, maybe good or bad, Sita and Asita. So we are not very clear about what Vedantadeshika says. The Vedantadeshika's words are very subtle to understand. And we can say this way, Bhakti Yogam is very difficult to practice. So that means Sita, though good in practice, though the habit is good, that is following upaya, taking it as good, but they are difficult to follow. Karma yoga, jnana yoga, and bhakti yoga in the Bhagavad Gita. So while doing our duties, we find it difficult. We are reluctant to do our duties. We are indifferent toward doing our duties. We get dejected after performing the duties. And when we have some failures because of our own commitments of bad deeds in the previous birth, when we suffer, we say, why should I do my duty? Then Jnana Yoga is very difficult to read books. It is difficult to learn from the teacher also. It is not understandable. All concepts are very hard to digest. Then what shall we do? Then we try to adopt Bhakti Yoga. Bhakti Yoga has got a lot of steps to do. And what is the way out? Where do we find relief? That is Prapat Yoga. Just merely using our physical frame, fall at the feet of the Lord. So even if that is difficult, Sashtanga Namaskara is difficult for many people with some problems. Therefore, even so, Anjali, just keeping the palms together, even if this is difficult, we cannot help. Keeping the palms together, one's own palms together tightly, forever on the thinking of the divine sandals and divine feet of Lord Ranganatha is enough. So it's very easy. So now, please remember, the word upaya also points out to the Lord himself, Ranganatha himself, the divine feet themselves of Ranganatha, the divine sandals. Now, how do we go about seeking the upaya? What you call the way to go, the road to travel. What is the road to travel? The only road to travel is thinking or meditating on the divine sandals. So, sita, sitan, upayan, apahaya. They avoid difficult methodologies, strategies. So, what do? Tadananyataya bhajanti vrittim. So, they take the task, vrittim. Vrittim means job, activity, employment. So, they employ themselves, they engage themselves. Tadananyataya bhajanti vrittim. So, they take recourse to, they want to take shelter under the divine feet, divine sandals. So they don't think of anything else. For example, so we have steps of surrender. So we must feel helpless. Then we must avoid doing the don'ts in the scriptures. We must make a decision to do the do's in the scriptures. We must choose a protector and we must believe the protector 100%. Then you have what we call falling at the feet, falling at the divine sandals. But these are all not steps not needed for an illiterate. So vrittim tadananyataya bhajanti. So they bhajanti, they meditate. So their job is meditation. Vrittim bhajanti. They don't meditate on any other object except the divine sandals. Why? Because as we understand from the previous, I think 43rd or 44th verse, that we saw that bhogam anubhavanti we saw. So the gods, the guardians of directions, came to fall at the divine sandals and they wanted to enjoy the pleasures more than what were available in heaven. So they considered this enjoyment is the highest enjoyment, and therefore these great people also. The great people, of course, involve gods, demons, and human beings. There were great demons also, like Mahabali. Initially, he was so proud about himself, but later on, so he became what we call Chiranjeev. Ashwathama Balir Vyasaha. Ashwathama Balir Vyasaha. Hanumancha Vibhishanaha. Kripah Parashuramascha. Saptaite Chiranjeevinaha. So they became long-lived person. Mahabali Chakravarti. Though he was a demon. Many examples may be there. So what do they get, these great people, by coming to the meditation on the divine sandals? Tad asadharana bhoga sabhilashaha. So abhilashaha. So look at the word Sanskrit, abhilashaha. Abhilashaha meaning ambition. The word, both Sanskrit and English words start with A. So abhilashaha is ambition. So they have great desire. So what is their desire? To get pleasure. What type of pleasure? Asadharana bhogaha. They want to have extraordinary pleasure. They want to spiritual pleasure. They want to have spiritual pleasure. They want to have unalloyed, permanent, highest happiness. How do you get? So how do the great people, or how do we get that kind of happiness? Tadasadharana bhogaha. By worshipping the divine sandals, we get the bhoga. So these mahantaha, great people, will always be ambitious to get the pleasure which is extraordinarily high from you. Tat asadharana bhoga sabhilasha. Now, as you know, when we go to the temple, go around the temple, get into the sanctum sanctorum, near the sanctum sanctorum, then what do we experience? By a lot of material meant for puja placed there, the camphor lit by what we call karpura harati, nirajanam we say in Sanskrit also. So you have agarbatti or the what we call incense sticks burnt. The lamp with the ghee is glowing. The entire atmosphere is holy. And we forget all our sufferings. Sometimes we come to temple frequently in order to alleviate our sufferings, bring down our sorrow, subside our sadness. Therefore, we come to temple. And when after we come into the temple, we feel very much relieved. We feel our heart is peaceful. Our mind is not restless. And therefore, so this is what we call bhoga. So by worshipping the divine sandals, the great people always want to meditate on you. Let me recite. Apahaya sita sitan upayan, sita asitan upayan, sita sitan upayan aravindekshana paduke mahantaha tadananyataya bhajanti vrityam tadasadharana bhoga sabhilasha. So I hope we can go to the next one. So 46. Now another beauty is here. So another alankara is here. So pranamanti nava vidhe, pranamanti na va vidhe, vipakadya, vidher vipakadya, ime ranga narendra paduke tvam, upajatamanuttamangam ubhayesham api chitramuttamangam. So he plays with the letters and gives us beautiful meaning. And we must avoid the wrong meaning. The wrong meaning is also there, and we should avoid. Let us understand very clearly. Now, pranamanti nava videhe vipagat. I repeat the sandhi split. Pranamanti nava videhe vipakat. Yaha, ye, ime, the letter ye, because of conjunction, it becomes ya. So, ye ime ranga narendra paduke tvam upajatam anuttamangam esham ubhayesham api chitram uttamangam. So, whom do you consider, or whom do we consider that they are good people? How do we certify, how do we distinguish from good people from bad people? So good people are those who worship the divine sandals. Bad people, meaning unlucky people who do not have opportunity to worship the divine sandals. So again, not just worship, bow their head before the divine sandals. Pranamanti. So how do we get the opportunity? By the luck, as we say, by luck. So because we are fortunate, we are getting the vision of the divine sandals and the worship. So we come from far off places, take the opportunity, and because of the good activities performed in our previous births, so we get, so out of luck we say, vidhihi, you can take it as positively as luck. If it is negative, we say fate. So, videhe vipakat, by the good results of our luck, videhe vipakat, ye ime. Now, Vedantadeshika is looking at the devotees near him. Now he is saying, addressing the sandals, Ranga Narendra Paduke Tvam. You, Tvam, you, that is you in singular, meaning in English we can say it pair, the pair of the divine sandals of Sri Ranganatha, Tvam, so you, so generally two in one. So Ranga Narendra Paduke, Ranga Narendra, Ranga, you know the stage or the colorful stage, and the entire world is a stage. So Nara Indra, Naranam Indraha, the leader of the men. So Narendra meaning king. So we can say Rangaraja Paduke. So Rangaraja's Paduka. We call him Rangaraja. Many people in this town are named as Rangaraja. If you ask for Rangarajan, we have to get the correct address. Otherwise, it is not possible. So you have Srinivasaha in Tirupati and so on. Parthasaratihi in Tiruvallikeni and so on. So you have the same God's name for many people in a place, in a single place. So Rangaraja, he is a king, and therefore we cannot have what we call Nitya Kalyanam as done by other temples, for other temple gods. So, for example, Srinivasa of Tirupati has got Nitya Kalyanam. And there is a kshetram, Divya Kshetram called Thiruvidavendai in Chennai, near Chennai, on the road to Mahabalipuram. So it's called Nitya Kalyana Perumal. The name is called Nitya Kalyana Perumal. It's actually Lakshmi Varaha Perumal. So many people prayed there to go and get their weddings settled. So here, so Ganga Narendra Paduke, so you cannot have as you like the rather frequent or wedding ceremony celebrated for Ranganatha. So Ranga Narendra Paduke, divine sandals of Rangaraja. So Ime, these devotees who have come to worship you, Pranamantiva Nava. So out of their fate, out of the bad consequences of the fate, Videhe Vipakat, Vipakaha is a bad consequence. The bad consequence of the fate, the Na Pranamanti. So when they come to the near the Sanctum Sanctorum, the priest ask them to look at the divine feet of the Lord, great Lord Periya Perumal, to have the vision. And then we look at the other direction, namely the number of heads of the Adishesha snake of the bed. So we look at the eyes, we must look at the eyes of Ranganatha, divine eyes of Ranganatha. And you must also see the goddesses, Mahalakshmi and Bhuma Devi, the goddess of earth also on the leg side. You must see Brahma on the navel over the lotus. So all this. So again we come to the Utsava idol, Divya Mangala Vigraha. We must look at the Prayoga Chakra, Agneya Chakra, namely the Sudarshanam on the right hand of the standing pose of Ranganatha, called Nam Perumal in Tamil. And we have to look at the divine feet and look at the divine sandals. So what do? We miss many things. So within a short time, when we are pushed away, then we are asked to come out. So we miss many things. So some people bow to the divine feet. Some people bow to the divine sandals. And so Pranamanti. So some people are fortunate to salute the divine sandals. Pranamanti, na pranamantiva. Even when they do not bow to the divine sandals. So what will be the result? Chitram. It is wonderful. Chitram generally means picture, as you know. This is Vichitram. This is wonderful. This is a surprise. How? So already we saw the word Sanskrit, namely, word in Sanskrit, namely, Uttamangam, is the name for the head. Any head, of course. Topmost portion is called head. So Uttama Angam, the best limb of our body is the head. So Uttamangam. So Yesham Ubayesham. There are two categories of people. Those who are fortunate to fall down at the divine sandals, that is with a bow of the head at least. We say, Vedantadeshika says in one of the poems, devotional songs, Ishan Namita Shirasaha, a little bow, a little lowering of the head that removes our pride, that removes our haughtiness. We are humble. So we are humble to show by lowering the head. So by showing the lowering of the head, we say that we are humble, we are modest, we are obedient. So this Uttamangam, so the head of Yesham, these people, that is devotees who could salute the divine sandals, Pranamanti, or Videhe Vipakat na Pranamanti, because of their faith, they don't bow their head to the divine sandals. Ubhayesham api. For these two categories also, so Upajatam Anuttamangam. Uttamangam, the head. Anuttamangam is no head. It is not the best limb. Uttamangam is the best limb because if the head is bowing down the divine sandals. Otherwise, this is not head at all. So we say always, we must hear good things, we must see good things. When we don't see good things, that means our eyes are not real eyes. When we don't hear good things, then our ears are useless. And therefore, in the same way, our head is not the head. Anuttamangam. So in the case of those who do not worship the divine sandals, the head is not the real head. That means it is a bad limb. It's not at the best limb. If we think twice and if we make many thoughts on visiting a temple and worshipping the divine sandals of Ranganatha, we must bow down our head. When we forget to bow down our head, that is because of our faith. So, and if we are fortunate, so the devotees now, the great people, as we said earlier, Mahantaha, it was asadharana bhoga sabhilashaha. We saw in the earlier verse. So Uttamangam becomes Anuttamangam. The Sanskrit word has got a beauty here. So Anuttamangam, Uttamangam, the best. Now today we use the English expression, the very best. So Uttamangam is the best limb, meaning head. Anuttamangam also means the very best. That is the beauty in Sanskrit. So it doesn't look like an opposite word. It's not an antonym for Uttamangam. Uttamangam and Anuttamangam have the same meaning, and we can say in English better, Anuttamangam, the very best. So those who are able to worship, that is Pranamanti, Vidhe Vipakat, by the beauty of luck, by the good result of luck, if they bow down their head, then their head becomes the best head. The best limb of the body becomes the best head. So Uttamangam is the best limb of the body, and the head of all people heads of all devotees become If they bow their head down, then they become the best heads. So non-devotees will not have best heads. The head is the best limb of the body. So we must have the best head among the people, among the devotees. So that is the beauty in here. Slesha, the word anuttamangam has got two meanings. Slesha is pun, double entendre as it is called in French. And it is called, as you know, double meaning, or double meaning words. There are three types of slesha in Sanskrit. One is called khanda slesha. This alankara, the figure of speech, is called khanda slesha. Then another one is called bhanga slesha. Second, and I will tell you about the third type later. So khanda slesha, each word has got two meanings. And bhanga slesha, if you split the word differently, it will have two meanings. And so on. So here, so khanda slesha is there. Anuttamangam. Anuttamangam means the very best limb, namely head, and it is not the head. So na uttamangam, it is not the best head. So you have some examples of the word. Kilalam. Kilalam means blood. So kilalam means water. Kilalam in Sanskrit means water. Kilalam means blood. So you have the word Vahini in Sanskrit. Vahini is river. Vahini means army. A-R-M-Y. Sena, as we say in Sanskrit. Army of soldiers. Vahini is army. Vahini is river. So in that way, we have got many words with double meanings. You might know many words better than me. So let us take to the last verse. So let me recite this again. Pranamanti nava vidher vipagat ya ime ranga narendra paduke tvam upajatamanuttamangam yesham ubhayesham api chitramuttamangam. For our best limb of the body, the head, the divine sandals become the best ornament, rather the best head. The best head over our best limb of the body, namely head, is divine sandals. Please don't forget. So divine sandals are the best head, are called the best head over our best limb of the body, namely head. So the best head is placed over the head. So that is the beauty here. So let me recite the last one. Jayati Yatiraja Suktihi Jayati Mukundasya Padukayugali Taduvayadhanas Trivedim Avandhayanto Jayanti Bhuvisantah Kavitarkika Simhaya Kalyana Gunashaline Srimate Venkateshaya Vedanta Gurave Namaha. Let me recite the first verse also because we continue tomorrow. Santas Sriranga Prithvisha Charanatrana Shvekharaha Jayanti Bhuvanatrana Padapankajare Namaha Kavitarkika Simhaya Kalyana Gunashaline Srimate Venkateshaya Vedanta Gurave Namaha. Aho Bhagyam Swami. Okay. So thanks to Mohan Parsali Swami for his good comments. Thanks to Shivashankar ji from abroad. So let us wind up this session and Dhanyavadaha Sarvebhyaha Nivedyante. Let us continue tomorrow exactly by 5 as far as possible. Same time. Thanks to you.